Hey,
And
Kylie.
hi, Lauren. We're live.
We're live. We're back. It's
We're back.
2025. How are
Yes.
you?
Oh my gosh, so good. I'm great, actually. And like, just, like you said, we're back. It's 2020. We're like new year. I love a turn of season. I love the beginning of a new year. It just is like turning that page on whatever was going on before and just being able to step into something new just is such a refreshing moment for me. And I'm like super excited for that. And I always love the beginning of a year.
And that's exactly why we're here with episode 1 of the Green
Yes.
Glow Healthcast.
I know, how exciting.
This is cool.
It's really exciting and like I'm just so motivated and I know this is something that you and I've had in the works for a while now and we got sort of introduced to hearing ourselves and talking and having some podcasting experience and it was such a fun journey to be on together and the fact that now we're taking this on our own and we are branding our own lifestyle brand is like just super exciting to me and I'm really here for it.
hmm Yes, we
As you
are.
know.
And I think the piece about us being here for it is because we know it's needed. We know there are
Mhm.
conversations based on evidence, based on
Mhm.
personal accounts, storytelling, the folks that we've worked with, the
Mhm.
healthcare industry at large
Mhm.
is complicated, and we've been in it for a while.
Yes, we
We've seen a
have.
lot of people succeed
Yes.
um, through the not so traditional method of
Yeah.
healthcare, but it's also still really evidence based stuff rooted in lifestyle education. And that's what we're going to be bringing to the audience. And that is why we're super excited.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's true. We've had a lot of experience. When I think back over my career as a nurse, if you had told me 20 plus years ago now, when I first went into nursing, that I was going to become a lifestyle coach and, insulin resistance expert, I would have been like, what are you talking about? And in a lot of ways, my career has gone in this sort of full cycle, we'll talk about that later, but it's been exciting to see what was possible in this lifestyle world once I started getting a taste of it, getting a taste of, in particular, plant-based dietary strategy, eating a plant-based diet. When I started experiencing it myself, I felt like, how can this not be part of the conversation in doctors' offices? How can nutrition
Mm-hmm.
and lifestyle activities not be part of every interaction in the medical system? And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that was something that was really missing. And when I had the opportunity to move out of the traditional medical system in my nursing career in the hospital based setting and start working with clients as a coach, as a nurse coach, and
Mm-hmm.
as a lifestyle coach, what a difference that made in my professional satisfaction too. Like my personal satisfaction, my
Mm-hmm.
professional satisfaction. I've coached so many people living with all forms of diabetes, heart disease, gastrointestinal disruption, dysbiosis of the gut, just all the gamut of conditions that are chronic health conditions that people are really suffering with right now and not really knowing how to take charge of their health. And I can say, like, I've seen people turn these conditions around, go into
Mm-hmm.
remission of type 2 diabetes, reverse their cardiovascular disease to the point where they're off of their blood pressure medications. And
Mm-hmm.
these stories, like you're saying, these inspirational stories of people who have decided to, make changes and have trusted in me and you and the coaches that I've known over the years to help them turn their health around. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
inspiring. And I have to say, when you're in the healthcare world, you see inspirational things no matter where you are, right? But to work with people who choose to make a difference in their own lives, it's just, there's nothing more special than that. It's very empowering. It's very
Mm-hmm.
exciting. And, I'm excited to share those stories, to share my experience again with my nurse hat on. And that kind of coming from that point of view of like, this is not something the things that we're going to talk about in this podcast, the bold conversations we're going to have, are not things you're going to hear in your medical clinics, right? When you're going to your doctor's visits, when you're going to see the people that are in the more traditional healthcare model. So,
Mm-hmm.
we've started these conversations. We started having them. We started talking about them together last year. and even beyond that, just as colleagues, as coworkers, as co-coaches. And now it's just exciting to think that we can invite more people in and expand the conversation.
Oh yeah, we cover a lot of ground in the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that we have, that
Mm-hmm.
we've had, and I think as just a representation of the professional wellness world, or clinicians as we've been compared to, that experience as to where we are now, is it often takes a personal experience to turn your decision making around for yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
then feeling like you actually have permission to now teach this forward. I think a lot of people in the healthcare space struggle with that because it's not
Mm-hmm.
the way things have always been done. Even though the research exists and's been around for a long time in the lifestyle space, we should be talking about sleep health and stress. We should be talking about the most effective holistic way to eat that does as little harm and then does healing. I mean, these are things that we got to be able to bring up. And I think that our listeners are going to gravitate towards a little bit of, I experienced the lack of this. What you
Mm-hmm.
guys are talking about is kind of how I feel on a regular basis every time I go to my general practitioner, or I think this is lacking in my experience because I'm spinning my wheels and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. We've all heard I know what to do, I just need to do it. And I like to answer that with, if you knew what to do, you'd have gotten it done by now. We
Mm-hmm.
have to look at this through a different lens. And I just want to bring up something that I saw, that the World Health Organization states that 60% of the factors affecting individuals' health are lifestyle related characteristics, and just 40% are attributed to like medication and genetics. I really want to challenge that 40% to genetics and medication,
Mm-hmm.
because what we've seen is that people get a whole lot happier and healthier faster, and also for the long term, when they go right after the lifestyle issues in
Mm-hmm.
their life. And there's a much bigger world to that, because the way we eat does have to do with the family. The family does have to do with our
Mm-hmm.
um, the motivation and feeling safe in a space to actually try something different. So if this kind of gives anybody an idea of the directions that we're going to be going in, these are all kind of pillars within lifestyle, but these pillars branch into all sorts of different areas. So we're going to cover a heck of a lot. We're not going to make this medical and painfully boring, because that is not who we are.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in some really cool guests. We've got friends in pretty cool places
Mm-hmm.
practicing
Mm-hmm.
in really inspiring ways. So
Yeah,
that's what we're going to bring forward. And
absolutely.
if there's anything else that you guys need to know about us, we can kind of spiel out quickly. Kylie, you have a nursing background.
Yeah.
You have worked with tons of mamas. So tell us a little
Yeah.
more about that.
For sure. Well, like I said, I started my career as a nurse in a neonatal intensive care unit. So I was taking care of mostly premature or babies, newborns, or newborns that needed some medical support after birth. And I loved being a NICU nurse. It was so exciting and interesting. And we did do a lot of, dietary, like there's a lot about nutrition and dietary strategy at that point, growing small babies. So, but it was very simple and basic. But I did get to work with a population of women that had high risk factors for prematurity, and that included things that were, related to things like gestational diabetes, or having a history of diabetes prior to pregnancy, hypertension, leading to things like preeclampsia and really significant pregnancy complications. So, some of the work that I've done over the years in women's health was, trying to identify ways to reduce those risks, and also help women have the healthiest pregnancies that they could, because as the healthier the pregnancy, leads to the healthier newborn outcomes. And actually, when you look at the barometer of healthcare for any nation, infant mortality is actually the one of the primary measurements.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, the United States actually has a pretty high infant mortality rate, considering that we are in a country that is supposed to have all access to all this research and technology and everything. So I always found that to be such a big disparity. Like, why can't women get the best care possible during pregnancy and get access to the best nutrition advice and the best information about how to nourish themselves and make positive changes during pregnancy? And again, fast forwarding to when I became a health coach and I started working with women who were pregnant, who were being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and we would start working with them on addressing their nutritional status and the food that they were consuming and putting in high quality, high nutrient foods from a plant-based category. And I'll tell you, their gestational diabetes started to go away and they were having healthy pregnancies, healthy outcomes in their pregnancies. So, that's one area that I am very passionate about is women's health in general through the life cycle. I happen to have a very pregnancy, I've had a lot of focus on pregnancy, but I also had the very great honor of working with women all throughout the lifespan. And, the things that women are dealing with right now, and especially with perimenopause and conditions of inflammation throughout their lives, into beyond menopause. And that is leading to the development of other types of chronic health conditions. And there's also a very specific population of women right now who are struggling with taking care of or losing family members to conditions like diabetes. I heard that all the time. Like, why are you coming for coaching? Why do you want to change? What do you want to get out of this? Well, I just saw my XYZ relative, mother, sister, aunt die from complications of diabetes or heart disease. And I don't want that to happen to me. I want to take charge of my health now. And I know there's things I can do differently to make that happen. And so there's a really interesting sort of trend that I was seeing of women who now have the opportunity to take care of themselves, after maybe they're done raising their children or taking care of a family member. And I do think that putting the focus on women's health and lifestyle factors that can impact women's health for the better, and it's just such an exciting place to be. And that's something that I'm very, very passionate about for sure. So, and now I'm a mom to a little girl, I have a 3-year-old daughter. And as a mother, I want to set an example for my daughter. I want to be an example for her to live a healthy lifestyle with vitality. And, one of the questions in our house right now is like constantly like, this week, is Barbie vegan? That's like her question. Like, she wants to know who's vegan. Why are we vegan? What's happening? Why is this, and that's the word that we're using with her right now to describe our eating strategy, because she's 3 and, we're trying to keep things as simple as possible, but she's very curious. And for those of you who are listening and you've got kids around and are maybe wanting to help your kids thrive, that's an area I'm becoming very experienced in as a mom to a young child who's navigating lifestyle and how to show her what that looks like on a daily basis, living the lifestyle.
Yeah, talk about coming full circle with where you started, and now you find yourself in that position when you're
Yeah.
raising a little human
Yeah.
who happens to have tons of energy, as
Oh
I
my
have
gosh.
witnessed.
I
She's
know.
definitely taken in the right nutrition, considering the motor that she's got on her,
Oh my gosh.
and the brain power that she's got on her.
Yeah.
Also, it's pretty cool to see that. And there's such a spotlight on women's health now. There's a spotlight on this. Longevity is a buzzword. We'll get into
Mm-hmm.
that in some episode. I think that's quite interesting. I'm
Mm-hmm.
someone who's big on how are we doing today? Let's think
Mm-hmm.
about today, because anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many great topics related to
Yeah.
lifestyle and what you have the power to do.
Yeah.
Those are things that we're going to get into as the episodes progress.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And I'm super excited about that. And, we crossed over in the diabetes world, I also have a personal connection to type 1 diabetes. As you know, Cyrus, my husband, is living with type 1 diabetes and has been for many years, since 2002. And of course, we throw our lifestyle at part of it is like his long-term health. He really wants to live the longest life possible and with the least amount of complications. And unfortunately, the reality is that people living with, in particular, type 1 diabetes end up with conditions like heart disease, cancer, things that are actually causing their mortality, the morbidity and mortality for people with type 1. And he is at the forefront of trying to teach people and help people to also reverse the insulin resistance behind that. And that's where you and I cross paths, which is so exciting because, you have such an incredible story as well and background. And, I like that. One of the things I love about you is how, you have turned your like, you're a crossroads of passion meets purpose in terms of your personal journey and your professional one. And, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, because I just love hearing your story.
Oh gosh, thanks. Yeah, I think I'm describing it a little bit as a self-made healthy success story, self-made healthy success story, because
For
it was
sure.
kind of an accident. Yeah, I ended up here and I ended up in the diabetes world kicking and screaming. I did not want to end up working in diabetes because I've had type 1 diabetes for 31 years now. Holy cow. And, I spent the first 15 years of it miserable. It was super
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy. I didn't know what was going on with me most of the time, the teenage years and after high school, and everything was just very complicated and confusing all the time. And it really started and ended with nutrition. That was the most difficult thing to be dealing with because I never felt good. My blood sugars weren't where they could have been, but it was always this woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff. Self-blame, but yet going through all of the doctor's advice. I never avoided taking any insulin. It wasn't like this anger towards diabetes. It was a constant confusion. Why isn't this working? Looking up at the night sky and going, why? Why is this so hard? Because I'm trying to be healthy. And I've come to learn a lot of people are in those shoes of I'm really trying here. Why are these dots not connecting?
Mm-hmm.
What it is, it's at the cellular level that you don't know what's going on because no one's teaching you that in the pediatric clinic, whether you want to listen to it or not. I certainly would not have when I was 13 or 14 years old. And the other thing is, as you get older, that language becomes even less and less and less. The actual teaching piece or the lifestyle piece or walking in and sitting down with your doctor and getting anything other than a medication adjustment. It does happen in some places, but it's not happening all the time to all the people that need it. If it was, we would not be coaches. We would
Right.
not have been in this counseling position that we've been in. So yeah, I started to hear other people's stories at a point. And let me fast forward a little bit is that I had a kind of an awakening at one point where when you have diabetes, you kind of realize there's a fork in the road. Either you're going to get healthier or you're not. And I had to choose the healthier path. And it wasn't going to be overnight, but I started with food. And you almost said the F word earlier, that is fiber.
Yeah.
Because now I know that one thing that I did almost overnight was increase my fiber intake. I was not
Mm-hmm.
aware of that at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people would sit down and say, what's lacking in my fridge? And I knew that it was just your fruits and veggies. It was just, I'm going to try to now eat a salad every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really all the initial goal was. Let me just eat more greens and see what happens. And now I know it was the increase of fiber. And I did stop eating meat overnight. That resonated with me as I don't feel good when I eat it. So I'm going to really back off on this. I also just thought, you know, I like my animals better alive. So I had a little bit of a moral moment as well. And I just came to that conclusion. So, with all due respect here to listeners who are omnivores, I was not born a plant-based eater. I came into this when I just felt that it was the right direction for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had the proof. My blood sugar was going low all the time. So now I know that it's because I was becoming more insulin sensitive with every single meal I ate that had more fiber in it. So I went to see my endocrinologist and she's helping me adjust because I'm like, I can't even deal with this. I'm eating more carbs than I've ever had in my life
Mm-hmm.
because vegetables are carbs. I want everyone to write that down.
Oh, yeah.
Vegetables are carbs. Veggies are
PSA.
carbs.
Yeah.
Yes, that is it. Veggies are carbs. Tell everybody.
Yeah.
They're not separated. And I think I was probably throwing, garbanzo beans onto stuff. There was just some
Mm-hmm.
things I was trying. Mind you, this was 16 years ago that I entered into
Mm-hmm.
this. So I didn't have a guide. I wasn't really talking to other people around me about this plant thing. I honestly thought I was a study of one, that I had outsmarted diabetes. Ding, ding, ding. I've got the answers
Mm-hmm.
because I'm eating all the carbs and I'm taking less insulin. What is happening to me? So it took a while to figure out where I needed to land with insulin. And then I decided, you know what? Let's make an even bigger life change and let's go back to school and become the one thing that I swore I would never do because I never wanted to be a dietitian. I never met a dietitian I liked. So what's the next step? You become one. You become one. So that was what I embarked on. And then I met my mentor, who is probably the reason I graduated. I don't think I would have finished without her getting me behind tables at nutrition events, at conferences.
Mhm.
She pulled me back there and made me listen, and I was uncomfortable and I didn't have all the answers, but I got to witness the questions and the curiosity that people had about nutrition. And that was so important to learn from both sides, the patient and the professional. I really got to learn a lot. And she was the one that schooled me on fiber.
Mhm.
This is what's happening to you. And
Mhm.
then I went down the tunnel of research. But mind you, I was also in university at the time, and
Mhm.
I was not getting any of this at the university.
Right.
So I'm starting to see this conflict that became very clear to me. This is why diabetes is the way that it is.
Mm.
There's a huge lack in problem solving, the solution driven nutrition. It's just eat this to survive. And was also information out there that was so dated, and I just felt like I'm not doing anything wrong. But why
Mhm.
isn't anyone talking about what I'm doing? Because the research does exist, and that research goes back to like the year after insulin was discovered in 1921. There is
Yeah.
evidence going way the
1920.
heck back. So
Mhm.
that's where I found myself is I'm getting healthier. I have more energy than I know what to do with. Then I became an indoor cycling instructor, got my RD, then became a certified diabetes care and education specialist. I wrote a book. I started doing a lot of speaking. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I've landed,
Yeah.
and then bounced around to really find my groove and being able to teach this
Mhm.
forward. It's very uncomfortable to feel like an outlander, I wish, outsider, outsider in the clinical space.
Sure.
It's
Yes. I
very
know.
hard. And I've
Yes.
spoken to, uh, there's a lot of clinicians out there that want to see lifestyle more incorporated in these spaces.
Mhm.
And this is why we are doing this podcast slash healthcast,
Mhm.
because we are going
Mhm.
to start bringing these messages forward, the stuff that people really need to hear and get some hope from, because
Mhm.
I needed it and I didn't get it. And I became the person that I needed. It
Yeah.
just, had we met, Cyrus, had all of us met in the
Mhm.
beginning when we all started
Mhm.
this, who knows how powerful this would be now. But I think there's
Yeah.
a reason that we're here today, and we
Yeah.
have so much good information
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to share forward. So there you
You
go.
just said something incredibly powerful, that you became the person that you needed. You became the person that you needed. You did the research. You did your homework. You did the studying. You sat in those difficult conversations, had those difficult conversations. You asked the curious questions. You became the person you needed. And I think from a health perspective, that is one of the things that I have found, the people who are most successful in addressing their health concerns and their health conditions are exactly that. They're the person that they needed to, like, they were the person that they needed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, whew, that was like, that gave me chills when you said that. Like, literally, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was just like such a beautiful tribute to like the work you've done. And now that you're a speaker and a presenter, and you're an author of a book, like, we'll plug that in here too, by the way. We'll like attach a link for your book.
Thanks.
um Type 1 determination. I mean, you're a beautiful author, and I think that when it comes to what I've seen in my experience as a coach, and like learning about these lifestyle pillars, which we're going to talk about a little bit too, is like, what are we talking about when we say lifestyle? Like, what are we talking about here? But ultimately, your health is in your hands. Your destiny is in your hands. So when you become the person that you need yourself to be, like, that is just art. It's like chef's kiss right there. So
If I
good for
could,
you.
thank you. If everybody had listening, just take a moment for a second here.
Yeah.
Is that if I could gift everybody something, like I could, have the magic lamp and kind of just, you get one wish. I want everyone to wake up tomorrow in their ideal state of health.
Mm.
Just get that. What is it? What
Mhm.
is it physically, emotionally? How do you feel? How do you look? You're at your
Mhm.
goal weight, or your goal feeling, or your goal size. I mean, we tend to have this in our mindset, right? Wake up tomorrow in that body and now take assessment of what you had to do to get there. Now you
Mhm.
know. You would
Mhm.
wake up knowing what it took to get there. And now you have the answer of, it's not overnight.
Mhm.
It is a whole lot of things that you probably didn't expect it to be, that you got to your goal.
Yeah.
It wasn't a one-way street. It wasn't linear by any means, if this
Mm.
included weight loss. But you will, I can almost guarantee that everyone will wake up knowing that they had to make different choices about how they felt about food,
Mm-hmm.
different choices about how often they exercised or the timing of their day, and how they chose to get up in the morning and how they wanted to feel. They may
For
have
sure.
realized that stress was the number one thing in life, that was the number one barrier. Because I can tell you, it's like, you ever stretch and you avoid the side that's tighter. We
Yes.
always lean into, like, right, you lean
Yeah.
into the right side first if you
Yeah.
get a better stretch on that
Yeah.
right hamstring. And I always say to my classes, the side that's tighter, go there first,
Yeah.
stay there first, go to the
Yeah.
tighter side. We're always trying to do stuff that's comfortable, or that we're used to. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get to a healthy state of mind, if you wake up tomorrow at your goal, you will have known. Now you know
Mm-hmm.
what it takes to get there. Now you've got a list. Like, now you can get, then you wake up the next day and you're right back to where you are. But now now
Yeah.
you have that list. And I'll tell you, I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what coaching's for.
It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
what
Well,
nutrition
absolutely.
therapy, or lifestyle therapy, as I like to
Yeah.
call it. That's the point, is you have some serious awakenings.
Absolutely. And somebody to run those awakenings by, or the challenges by, right? So exactly, like in coaching, we help you to frame the day to make sure you're able to make your best choices, right? So like, what are the
Mm-hmm.
barriers that typically get in the way? How do we avoid them, right? How do we get around those barriers? What are the things that
Mm-hmm.
are in your control? And, that's one of the beauties of coaching, is like, it's a very like intimate relationship, because you're learning so much about your client, and your client is really trusting in you
Mm-hmm.
to um, give them advice or direction, or problem solve together, really. So
Mm-hmm.
it is a really exciting career, path that I know that I've been on. I've really enjoyed that part of my career.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you've talked about, well, first of all, fiber. I mean, like, we could geek out on fiber all day.
It'll happen
Everything.
at some
It's like
point.
the macronutrient that gets ignored, right? So like, people talk about like carbs or fat or protein, but it's like, well, wait, why is fiber getting left out of this equation? Because guess what? If we all started focusing on fiber, the health of this country would improve immensely, very quickly. But we're caring about health of individuals, so that's one area that we're going to go and do some deep dives on for sure. But I definitely, I think that that's one of the areas of research that's so interesting to me, is on fiber for, again, overall wellness, health, gut health. I mean, my goodness, again,
Mm-hmm.
another topic we'll go and do some deep dives on.
Mm-hmm.
But fiber does feed into the pillars of lifestyle medicine. So we're talking about lifestyle medicine, and the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is an organization that actually has um, really paved the way for healthcare providers of all forms to be informed, to become educated, and even to get board certified in lifestyle medicine, which
Mm-hmm.
is really a unique field of of um, of medicine. And the thing about the lifestyle medicine organization is that they have tracks for other healthcare professionals. So registered dietitians, they've got
Mm-hmm.
support, they've got groups. So they've for nurses, they've got tracks for different areas of interest in sort of like conditions, like health conditions, that sort of thing. So, if you're a health professional out there and you're interested in learning more, please, we'll put the website for the ACLM in our show notes for today. But we're very well oriented to the lifestyle medicine pillars, and they've outlined those, which is really convenient, because it kind of like sums up what we're talking about when it comes to like these lifestyle choices and lifestyle factors.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are nutrition, dietary strategy that is plant-based and rich in fiber.
Mm-hmm.
That is the number one pillar of lifestyle medicine, and it's
Mm-hmm.
one that we firmly believe in, that we are very dedicated to in our own personal lives, and that we also promote in our professional lives as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first. And then the next pillar is, exercise and daily movement, and getting your body moving in a way that is good and fun for you, so that you're getting activity. We know that daily movement is so supportive for healthy outcomes, prevention and reversal of diseases. And so exercise is one of the pillars. Then you've got sleep improvement, the focus on sleep, making sleep rituals that are going to help you get the best sleep, because sleep is so important for brain health, for full body health. All cellular repair happens when we're sleeping. This is a really important part of the lifestyle pillars. And that also kind of leads into stress management as well. And then, stress management is so valuable for so many reasons. And again, that's another pillar. And then the last two are smoking and alcohol cessation. So again, eliminating toxic things that we know that are cancer causers, causing, lung disease, heart disease. When we eliminate those things out of our body, it helps us to live our best, most vital lives. And that's those are all that's sort of like summing up the lifestyle pillars that we're going to be speaking about. And we're not just going to speak to those specifically, like breaking them down. We're going to include them in these topics of interest, right? As we come across things that are either topical because they're maybe newsworthy events, or maybe they're things that are timely for, like Lauren and I love a theme, and we're going to get to that in a moment too, because we do have a really fun theme to jump off with. But, as we're moving through the topics that we're discussing, we're going to be including these lifestyle pillars as part of how we approach and what we would want you as a listener to take away, whether you're coming and getting information about, your health as a man or a woman, or a, somebody with a heart disease history, somebody with diabetes, like whatever it is that you're coming to the table with, we want to help show you where you can get these resources and make different choices, like you said earlier, Lauren. So anyway, I know, do you have a kitty cat messing
I
in your...
do. I have a cat pushing on my computer right now. So
I feel like cats and pet therapy should be included as part of one of the
know.
pillars of lifestyle medicine, because
She's
Lauren and I
looking
are
at me.
also cat lovers, and we often have cats that are messing around with our equipment. So which one is that?
Yeah,
Who just
Sailor,
hopped
of
up? Oh, Sailor
course.
hopped up. Okay.
She can tell time.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing I wanted to say is that one of my favorite sayings to summarize everything that happens when you're focusing on making different choices is that ingestion is connection. Everything is connected when it comes to these lifestyle pillars.
Yeah.
What do we do when we're stressed out? A whole lot of us eat. And then we might have regret. And then we might not exercise because we're bummed. These things are connected. And it's not so simple as to just say, take this pill for, let's say, you're insulin resistant. You're going to get a pill for that. Well, the pill is just kind of a mask in a lot of ways. It's not actually targeting the root or making anything change. And so we've got to get this lifestyle stuff on the table with how much pharmaceutical conversation we have. If you're in America, you get bombarded with commercials, particularly in the morning. That's kind of their big time to play. The commercials is to target an audience of a certain age, and those commercials are also emphasized towards the evening. Like with evening news, or with like watching, sitcoms, things like that.
Sure.
They know exactly what they're doing in the marketing machine. So
Right.
we will not be leaving that out as we talk about the realities of what our society is fighting against
And facing. Yeah. And also like where we're getting our information. I mean, a lot of times the commercials look very appealing, if you're struggling with a health condition and you don't know how else to resolve it, or you don't have any other tools to, address the health condition, then the commercials can look very appealing to think that, oh my gosh, this can go away just like that. And, we will preface our conversations by saying that there is a time and place for medication, for pharmaceutical intervention. There is certainly a time and a place for that. And of course, you are encouraged to speak with your physician about any type of medical intervention like pharmaceuticals. But, one of the things that we've experienced is that we've seen a lot of clients that have gone to their physician to get deprescribed, right, from medication, because the lifestyle is so powerful, because the choices that they're making are so different and are now impacting them in such a positive way that they're able to hand the medication back and say, I don't need this anymore, and that is a really exciting process to be a part of. And if that's something that you're interested in, like, stay tuned. We have got lots of success stories and coaches to talk about, we love to bring our coach friends on to talk about their experience with their clients. So lots and lots and lots of stories to come. So stay
Yeah,
tuned for that.
deprescribing, essentially. I never really describe it that way, but that is what happened to me. I had cut my insulin use in half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After a certain point. It might have been 3 months, it might have been 6 months. I'm not
Yeah.
really sure what it was, but I know that it
Yeah.
was half. Um,
Yeah.
I at some point that had dawned on me, couldn't believe it. It was
Yeah.
never something, especially in type 1 diabetes, where insulin resistance is really just shoved under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but people with type 1 diabetes can absolutely have insulin resistance, and people of all sizes can have
Mm-hmm.
insulin resistance
Mm-hmm.
also. It's actually kind of a good segue into our theme for the day,
I
as I'm
know.
talking about what potentially could be running through the veins and through the
Yeah.
muscles and through the interior of our body is
Yeah.
related to heart health very, very
Yeah.
much.
Absolutely. And this theme for this month, like, we're excited to be launching in February, which is Heart Health Month. And as you were saying, it's so funny because you were saying that and I had the exact same thought. I was like, oh my gosh, what a great segue. This is perfect. To heart health because, kicking off with our hearts, we all have one. And
Let's
let's
hope.
let's take care of it, right? Like, I mean, Valentine's Day is in February. It's the month of love. You see hearts everywhere. I already am seeing it, like the decorations and stuff out, and that's been fun. We've been playing around with some in my house with paint, a lot of paint on these cold days. So, as we're approaching Heart Health Month, though, it's really important that we stay current on what's happening. And you found this fantastic article that was so interesting about tying together insulin resistance and cardiovascular disease. So, yeah, do you want to kind of break that down a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay, everybody, this is our hot take here
Hot
of
take.
hot take.
Woo-hoo. Yeah.
Is that a recent study from Harvard Medical School has identified a significant link between increased intermuscular fat, which means fat in the muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and coronary microvascular dysfunction, leading to higher risks of adverse cardiovascular events. So, you may understand that clogged arteries are not conducive to a healthy, happy heart. And this can
Mm-hmm.
lead to problems down the road and things that you may not really be aware of. And it really does lead back to nutrition. But it also has a direct link to other chronic conditions that are related to insulin resistance, because that's also a problem of having fat in the skeletal muscle. And it's not just diabetes we're talking about, it's also polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is also related to insulin resistance. So this is kind of a big deal. So there's some
Mm-hmm.
key findings. We've got 6 of them. That's all we're going to hit you with. But the first one here, I'll read this off, is increased cardiovascular risk. So for every 1% increase in fatty deposits within muscle, there is a 7% higher risk of heart-related death, heart attack, or heart failure. Now, this is kind of a fear statement here, but think of this in reverse also. So for every meal that you have that reduces your dietary fat intake, particularly saturated fat intake, you have a healthier heart with every fiber-rich meal that's low in saturated fat. So I hope everyone's hearing fiber. Beans, absolutely. Go get yourself a vegetarian bean chili.
Mm-hmm.
Have at it.
Yeah,
And if
for
you pair it
sure.
with big pile of greens,
Yeah, even
even
better. Yeah,
even
double
better.
your
And if
fiber.
right, and if you have type 1 right now and you're like, Lauren, whatever, I can't eat that many carbs, it's going to shoot my blood sugar through the roof, blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. You don't go big straight up. You
Mm.
don't go big carbs straight away.
Yeah,
Just add the salad. That's how I figured it out, was like,
yeah.
yes, we're all afraid of that, fast carbohydrate reaction and blood sugar shooting up to
Mm-hmm.
the roof, and you don't really know what's happening. But I can
Mm-hmm.
assure you that if you eat the low glycemic stuff, you can ease
Mm-hmm.
your way into healthier skeletal muscle, less fats sticking around also for the heart. So we'll
Amazing.
have this article also in the show notes for you, but these tips are fabulous for actually attacking a whole bunch of things all at one time in a very positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Want the
Well,
second
and you're
one?
talking about, and also I like that you gave the reverse of that. Like for every, so if we're saying that there's an increase in fatty deposits in your muscle tissue, which comes from your dietary fat, the saturated fat from your diet, then you are, if you're able to reduce the dietary fat intake, then you're also reducing your risk of heart related death, heart attack, or heart failure. I mean, these are like very
Mm-hmm.
significant complications that can lead to death. So
The inverse is important to see.
yeah,
And I will
yeah,
tell you, as a kid that grew up in the healthcare system,
yeah.
there is so much fear first. Fear first.
Hmm.
You'll lose your eyesight if. You're going to
Mm,
lose your circulation if. And that terrifying messaging, it
hmm.
doesn't help you make better decisions. It
Sure.
helps you to fear everything so that when
Mm,
you do hear someone say, go ahead and eat the beans, go ahead and eat the greens and the fruit, and because again, vegetables are carbs. We're not trying to fear the carbs here. We need to understand them better and their
hmm.
function. But
Hmm.
we are fear forward a lot of the time,
Hmm.
clinically speaking, in the traditional method of teaching because it doesn't have time for optimism. It only has time to
For
terrify
like,
you.
here's what's going to happen, right? For that like educational point. Well, so
Mhm.
and we'll do a deep dive into our favorite topic of carbohydrates and the fiber connection there. I mean, I know we'll deep dive that down the road too. So if you're hearing words that are scaring you right now, like just stay with us. We're not scary, we promise. So what else came out of this study?
Okay, so what else do we have here? That the second point here in key findings,
Mhm.
elevated levels of intermuscular fat are associated with something that's abbreviated as CMD. It's coronary microvascular dysfunction, a condition affecting the small blood vessels, that's the microvascular piece of this, in the heart, which can lead to serious cardiovascular complications. Again, it's kind of a scary one, but again, this is just reiterating the point that
Mhm.
intermuscular fat is the piece here that's associated with heart disease. So how can we move the fat out of our muscles is the key question.
Mhm. Yeah. And the third point is actually super interesting, I think. And I think this is really going to hit some people in a very in a different way because this is a whole different point, which is about BMI. And
Yeah.
this is identifying the risk beyond your BMI, your body mass index. And if we had an audience in front of us, I would say, how many people here are living with a sort of healthy range BMI? What's considered to be healthy, and have you like raise your hand because this next point is about the association that the association of cardiovascular related complications persists regardless of your BMI, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that if you have a normal or healthy BMI, but still have high intermuscular fat, you are still at increased risk. So your BMI is not a sort of get out of jail free card, right? Like if you're living with a healthy BMI,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that you can not also still be at risk for cardiovascular complications if you still have the high intermuscular fat.
Mm-hmm. This is why a lot of dietitians, they hear the high fat diet and they just see red flags.
Mm-hmm. For
There are a
sure.
lot of red flags around high fat eating, and
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's also kind of become this buzz and this trend. But
Mm-hmm.
a high fat eater who has lost weight, you have now really shifted your cellular function actually
Mm-hmm.
at that level, the cellular
Mm-hmm.
level, and that's what we worry about. That's what a heart health doctor would be concerned about also is what's going on at the cellular level.
Sure.
Even though you're a healthy weight, they're going to test for some other things. And if you've got heart disease in the family, you know that your risk is going to bump a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
on that end.
All right. Why don't you take the next one? Key point
Okay, I
four.
like this one a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
this potential mechanism. So, intermuscular fat may contribute to inflammation and insulin resistance, as I had kind of made in the first point here. Now we're going to tie this in a little bit more, which can damage blood vessels, including those supplying the heart. So now we know why cardiovascular disease and diabetes have a relationship. Now we know why there are so many warnings about heart health is such a high risk factor. Cardiovascular incidents are a high risk factor for people with diabetes. And again, I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm like being fearful here in saying this, but it tends to be one of the first things that a doctor will point out is it being risk. So are
Mm-hmm.
we seeing how we can, now we're seeing how we can start to reduce our chances
Mm-hmm.
of having a complication and taking care of insulin resistance, and also, I should say, reducing insulin resistance and also reducing our risk of a cardiovascular event at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the cardiovascular, the way that you're at risk is that you have conditions like hypertension or high blood pressure. You've got conditions like, hyperlipidemia or high elevated blood lipid levels. When those are the signals, those are the measurements that we can do when we're at our doctor's office or at the lab to measure how what degree of cardiovascular compromise we may already have. So that's something to think about too. Like if this is, if this isn't, if you've been diagnosed with something like that in the past and are still living with those conditions, like this is for you for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The fifth one here is very powerful. So this is going to be on you, and we'll give you some ideas as to how to do this.
Mhm.
Its implications for assessment. The findings suggest that evaluating intramuscular fat. So evaluating, how do we do that? Evaluating
Mhm.
intramuscular fat could be a more effective measure for assessing cardiovascular risk than relying solely on BMI.
Mhm.
So one way to do this is to sit down with your doctor and look at your medication history. That's a really great way
Mhm.
of taking a look at this. If you
Mhm.
are already living with diabetes, particularly type 2, you're going to look at, has your dosage been changing? Has medications been added? Are you maxed out on the dose? Start having some of these conversations
Mhm.
to really figure out, where is this risk coming from?
Mhm.
Um, and what can I do to start changing this? And it's the same sit
Sure.
down with the endocrinologist. It's the same sit down with the GP, is to really evaluate that history and have a talk about,
Mhm.
which direction am I headed in, and what
Mhm.
can I really do to make these changes. And I'll tell you right now that the answer ought to be, let's talk about lifestyle.
Well, that takes you to point number 6, which is the recommendations. So, basically the summary here, that there's specific strategies to reduce intramuscular fat are still under investigation. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle through balanced diet and regular exercise is advised to mitigate cardiovascular risk. And, we do, it is really clear in the research that high fiber diets that are strong in plants, a daily movement, daily exercise, these are key strategies that you can take on, that will help to reduce your risk and reduce the amount of intramuscular fat or dietary fat, but also intramuscular fat that's inside of your body. So, this is a very strong connection to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a topic near and dear to both Lauren's and my heart. Like, we are very well versed in insulin resistance. We are going to dive in deeper into that subject as well with some of our special guests in the future. And so, this is just sort of a hot take, because it's a very recently published article, something that we wanted to bring right to the table, jumping off. What can you do in the month of February? How can you take charge of your heart health this month, whether it's from a point of view of prevention of heart disease, or potentially the reversal of heart disease if you're already living with it? What is one takeaway? What's one thing that you can add in this month to make so that at the end of this month you can turn back and say, hey, I added this in and I feel better, and see how you feel. You just do a little test for yourself. Maybe it's adding greens every single day. Maybe it's adding some beans into your diet. Maybe it's going for that walk when, yeah, it's cold outside, but you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to bundle up and I'm going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Making the effort, making a choice, choose one thing today for the month that you can apply, and make it a great month, and your heart will thank you. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no good deed is too small. Isn't that a
Yeah.
saying? And that's the thing about lifestyle, actually, is that um, they stack, right? It's the
Mhm.
stacking up. It's this, get the
Mhm.
ball rolling where you're comfortable with that ball. And then
Yeah.
once you see a little bit of positivity from creating consistency, you can add more stuff, good
Yeah.
stuff to this mix. And just to make this a little more exciting, if it's February and we're talking about the month of love, whether you're with someone, you've got a partner, or you're single, the great thing about the month of love is that sometimes there are additional physical activities that are extra special because it's the month of love, and they count too. Get your heart rate up
Yes,
however you choose. Do it with a smile.
that's right. Move your body with a
Move
smile
yours, move your body with a partner,
with a partner.
whatever. Have
Yes.
a good time.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be enjoyable again. You're getting connected with your
Mhm.
body every single time you make a good choice with food,
Mhm.
with movement, with the mindset. You want to
Mhm.
start meditating in February? Absolutely. It's
Sure.
on the list, of
Yeah.
all these good lifestyle habits. So
Yes.
you've got a lot of choices. You actually do. You do
Yeah.
have choices here. Have that conversation with your doctor that you haven't had yet.
Mm-hmm.
Get in there, have an assessment of you. That's it. Love you. Love you in February. Hey.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I
what I
love
did
that
on
for you.
accident. Like I said, I was this self-made health story that I didn't know what I was doing at first. And
Yeah.
16 years later, I'm, with Kylie, and this is super cool. So,
This
like,
is super
just
cool.
right. You just
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
I think that's my hope for people, is to realize down the road, gosh, those little choices I made back when
Mm-hmm.
helped me to now grow up with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
These are the things that are going to get me further.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
also the big one for me is, I know I'm happier now than I would be if I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
started with nutrition
Right.
to change. That's a big deal.
Amazing. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow. Well, thank you for sharing
Thank
this and for
you.
bringing this article to it. We'll put the link to the article in the show notes in case anybody wants to read it or share it with a friend or family member. We're all about like spreading the word. If you need resources, we've got them for you. Sometimes getting messages out to people in your life who might need to hear them. We're happy to be that person. We're happy to be like, hey, listen to this thing. Listen, read this article. We can help share that. And then also, we have a place where you can go and interact with our community, which is our Facebook group that we just started. So we've got a Green Glow Lifestyle Facebook group. We'll post a link in the show notes as well so that you can join us there, and we'll have sneak peeks. We'll have conversation. We'll have, friends joining that will, hopefully turn it into a community of people who want to talk about similar things, like-minded things, right? And get the
Mm-hmm.
conversation started and help each other, right? Like let's all we're all here for collective good. So let's all try and help each other. So
Yeah, I think we could all use a positive place on social media for
yeah,
positive interaction.
yeah,
And that is
yes,
100% our intent,
yeah,
is to have a place of encouragement with free resources,
yeah,
links, and also a place to drop in questions.
yeah,
You are allowed to do that. And
yeah.
as we go on, we're going to have experts of all kinds of things on the show.
Mm,
So we will try our best to leave no stone unturned in this lifestyle
yeah,
world. And if we don't have the answer, well, we're going to have a guest on that sure as heck does.
yeah. That's right.
So get into that group and keep an eye out. And here we are, Green Glow Healthcast.
That's right. Yay.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for sharing today and for telling your story. And we'll be back next time with a new topic. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Have a
Thanks,
good February,
Lauren.
everyone.
Yeah,
See you in a week.
happy Heart Month.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.